Welcome to Read Class Live. I have a day 2 read for you here. Let's get started here. Okay. So I'm going to ream it. It was sitting on the pen so that it wouldn't get too swollen up here. See, it doesn't go all the way down, but it's close. Better than it would be. If it were any harder to ream, I would just use the pliers with a circular grip. Okay. Just gonna empty this in the trash. Okay, now I'm gonna soak it. And while that's soaking, clean your house, people. I finally cleaned my house today. It felt great. We're all cooped up, you gotta do it. You'll feel much better. You just can't work in a space that's messy. So my landlord is selling my place and I had to clean it up, and that was good. I learned that lesson again for the 500th time. So I cleaned everything. I learned to not stir sweet potatoes that are drenched in duck fat when you're wearing your dress clothes, because it will splatter and splash all over your clothes, even if you're wearing an apron, which I was. So don't do that, and hang in there in the corona crisis. We got kicked off tennis courts today because apparently standing 75 feet away from someone is putting them at risk for corona. No, I know the guy, safety and security, just doing their job, keeping everyone safe, keeping everyone secure. It's not his fault. Okay, here we go. Day 2. Let's see. Looks pretty good. Tip is a little open. There's my laundry. Tip's a little open. Let's see if it plays. Okay. Let's see. Testing out my new microphone. I have a headset on for talking, and then it should switch over to the loud one. Yeah, I do think it's worth making. My question for this chat question would be: is it slipped inside on one blade? And if so, I just generally find it's kind of flat, and it might be a good second bassoon reed, or like a Tchaikovsky 6 reed. I think plays kind of flat. that make sense, koi soup? To make it anyway? I mean, are we looking... If it's just one side's weaker, then I would definitely make it. If you see here how the blades slip, this one's on the outside, this one is on the inside. Here now this one's on the outside. So we have outside on this side of the blade, inside on this side of the blade, outside on this side of the blade, inside. So if it's this situation, I would definitely make it. Like this reed, you can see the top blade is stronger. Top blade is more arched than the bottom blade. So I'm definitely going to make this. But I would even make it if it were slipped double, because it might be a good low reed. I mean, it's a strike against it. Like I would treat it more aggressively because it's probably not going to be your best reed, but it may still have some utility. Just don't waste a lot of time working on it. Okay, I think this reed is ready to be practiced on a little bit. So I'm gonna, is that block? Okay, great. I'm gonna play this. Is that, yeah, DePaul University, yeah. Whoops. I guess I'm not supposed to have this. Okay. Give you a tuner here, okay. Oh, okay. Now I could find something it doesn't do. I could try to play pianissimo. Probably not going to do that. Right, it cuts out. But it's a day 2. It's the beginning of day 2. So I'm just going to hang on. I kind of want it to be a little sharp before I work on it. Why can't I understand that? Okay, so it actually is already sharp. A and G and all the sharp notes stick out. Somehow F sharp isn't sticking out. But the flat notes are flat and the sharp notes are sharp. So I'm going to work on it. It's not too hard. It kind of responds. I mean, it responds. It responds well. It really responds. Let me just see here. How does this change? I don't do anything and it's in a new position every time I come back to it. Okay. There we go. I must have bumped it. Okay. So the sharp notes are sharp. The flat notes are flat. Just means there's a little too much cane on it. The way those, the way the A stuck out in timbre, especially makes me think the sides are not tapered as well, or not as finished as the middle. So let me just see. I like the rails though. They're not too thick. They're not too thin. But so I'm going to try to leave the rails, whatever I do. For a day 2, those rails are good. But as I get in here, let's see if you can see this. This is all too thick from here. There should be a curve down to here, and it's curving down to there, and then that is flat. Or it's not even flat, but it just sticks out from what the curve should be. Let me actually draw that really fast. Okay, so let's go here. Fill up, melody 10, delete, new. Okay, so what's going on there? We're talking about It was about here to there. So now in thickness, that would look something like, let's go A to B to C. Okay, so A to B establishes this nice curvature. Here's B. Okay. And then C is right there. So that's not even correct. Okay, let me draw this better. It's hard to draw standing up. Okay, something like that. Let's see here. Oops. Okay, so this is where we would expect to get C. This whole thing. But instead, C's up here. Now this is still going down. You can see it's going downward, okay? So it's not that it's not tapering in the strictest definition of the word, but it's not tapering. This is tapering, this dotted line. This is just not tapering. So this is all too thick. Now, I like this thickness, so we sort of have a conundrum. I'm going to try to leave as much of this without, you know, as I take out, this is what needs to go. Try to leave as much of this rail as possible. Hopefully what we really have is that. Good. And then it comes out here. And then it actually does that. Let's draw that better. Okay, we have this. This is the good part. And then it gets too slow here. And then it speeds back up. And this is the rail that I like. Hopefully this is what we have. So I'm going to leave this intact. I'm going to taper down. Something like that. So I'll be working on the side. This is maybe the rail 1/3. You could call this the channel, and this the spine third of the reed. So I'll be working in the outer third, but I'm going to leave this as much as I can. I'm going to leave this edge. Okay, that's enough talking. Do you check for slippage at the bark or at the blade? That's a really good point. I find the bark seems to be the most, because it's so much harder. Oops. Because it's so much harder at the bark and thicker. I find this point is the most important. But this, at least in terms of that, when it's slipped both sides here, it'll really give you that effect of the flat reed, flat tenor register. But yeah, the blades can slip obviously differently. Usually whatever happens here is magnified in the blades, but I know what you mean. I think I prioritize the slippage here rather than up here. And up here, if it's bad, you can really, you know, shift this over. You could even do this and sort of freehand shape and reshape it, or especially use sandpaper. So that's also something to think about. Or if the blades are overlapping, you know, if one is sticking out, you could just sand it like this, and that would get the blade that's sticking out. So I guess I feel like this is more fixable and less consequential than whatever happens here. I don't have a good way to fix that. All right. So this is good. I get to work on the side, which is what I wanted. But I'm going to keep as much rail as possible. Yeah, this thing just isn't a reed yet. It doesn't taper down here. Now notice if I were at this angle, I would be killing the rail. Two expressions, or there are two meanings of the word rail, I think. The meaning I'm using right now is the outer third of the reed. All right, so if you want to divide the reed into sixths, this would be the rail third, the channel third, and the spine third. Each half composed of 3/6, I guess So I'm working in this outer half, but I'm not touching, this is the other definition of the rail, the thickness of this little side angle view. And that's really just the thickness right along this edge. I like the edge, I just don't like the rest of it. How I'm scraping again doesn't matter much here, in so much as it affects where I scrape. That's what really matters. So I'm scraping a lot right there because I want this to go downhill to there. Okay. Now, this will help the sharp notes in two ways. On the one hand, I'm removing cane, which is obviously going to make them less sharp. And as I make it taper more, that'll both dampen so it doesn't stick out in timbre so much, and it will hold the pitch down better. So those are the primary two concerns I had. Making the whole thing taper better. You know, it just looks really raw. It just looks like a day two. Okay. But again, I'm leaving as much of this definition of rail as I can, because if you get rid of this too soon, the reed will get stuffy and sort of hard, too resistant, too strong. You'll have to weaken it in other ways. It's just not ideal. But the rest of the reed, I just need it to look like a real reed. It just looks, I just see flat spots everywhere. Tip doesn't look great either. Just doesn't quite taper. You can see that. It's just kind of does that in a lot of places. So I could probably do the tip bevel again. There's just too much out through here. Okay, so let's see what I can do about that. Ideally, I would just do the tip bevel again, but okay, so using the edge of the file. Other tip is better, but similar issues here. The very tip. Let me say it again, it's all what you hold in your mind's eye. It's not really how you scrape. Okay. Scraped over here a lot because that's already quite thin. So I could scrape a lot there, and here to here would look great, and here to here would be ruined. Scraped here first because now here goes down to here. Stuff like that. Okay. All right. Let's see how this plays now. Oh. Whoops. Okay, so now the A is 10 cents flat. So what I did here wrong, I think, I've tapered the sides too much for the middle. So now even the sharp notes are flat. It's a little bright and buzzy still, which makes me just think the tip is more done than the back. And by done, I just mean take a finished reed and what percentage of it is this reed close to that reed. So maybe the tip is 90% done and the back is only 85% done. I don't know. But I think I took too much off the sides, and I may have also just taken too much cane off too soon. That could be another reason that it's reed's kind of bright, and the reed's kind of flat. But I did at least fix that A. I was hoping that by taking off cane, that would mitigate the increase in sort of the holding of the pitch, but it didn't do it enough. That's another reason I think maybe the back or the middle, the center, from center to side, I needed to take more out of the center. That would have freed up the A so that it just didn't get 10 cents flat. So, but again, I mean, I've got room. That's why you don't want to go all the way to 100% in any area on the reed. So now I've taken the sides a little too far. Maybe the sides are at 93%, or the reed's only at 90%. I can't fix that discrepancy right now because the reed's quite flat. It'd just get worse if I took more cane off. But that's what I'm going to be looking at in the future. Something to make the reed less hard, make the reed hold the pitch down a little bit less, because right now it's holding it down too much. Okay, let me just play a little bit more. Go back to this. Let's just try some scales. It's just too hard. You hear the way that just kind of blasts out? Response is pretty bad in the low register. Try it wire down. Let the reed do what it does, right? Like the B is sharp. It's a sharp note, but I'm not going to fix it. It distorts what's wrong with the reed, you know? Oh, great. My reed plays in tune. No, it doesn't. The B is 15 cents sharp. The G sharp really wants to crack. It's another sign of Just some crap going on. I don't even know. D flat major, I guess it's not actually much further from B. That's only 2 keys away. I guess something like F major or something is probably the furthest away. You don't want to be able to play Careless Whisper. So the high note is really good. If I can tongue a high E on a day 2, it's another sign the back is probably heavier than the tip. Not heavier, just more unfinished. So the back's probably a little high. You know, I don't think this microphone is working. I think the headset is picking up everything. So the sound is probably still pretty crappy. Is there a George Michael little... Is that an emoticon? What is that? Is that just a picture? I don't know. What is that little head? Okay, so high notes are a little surprisingly good. I can trade that for other stuff, I think. Nothing looks weird though. Just trying lots of different angles to see if I can find something that doesn't taper. What that may mean is the middle of the back. Let me check. Again, check the profiler. That's all this is. Zoom out. Come on. Okay. Let's check this profiler. Okay. There's that. This is the point that's usually finished on a profiler. Critical point. It's pretty good. It's maybe 2 over my finished reads. That's just where I want it. And now the back. Oh, okay. Should start at like 36. We're at 37. And we're even at 37. Oh, that's 36 there, but that's over 2. That being 34.5 is pretty thick. 32, that's a little thick. 2, 3, this is another measurement point. That's 3 over. So this is 3 over, usually where I finish, and this is 2 over, right? So this is less finished than that point, which is by design. But let's look at the other side. Okay, that's 2.5 over. Default Twitch emote. It's an emote. I didn't know the proper term there. Okay, so that's 3 over. That is 5 over. Okay. All right, so this was 3 over. Once again, this is much less finished than the spot up here. So that's 80% finished. This is 90% finished. All right, so resolving that discrepancy is going to make the read better. Okay, this is, again, 0.5 over, not much. Yeah, so I'm getting 37 now. So yeah, that could have a 1 off too. That's really thick. Okay, and this is why you can tongue high E's. All right, so let's look at this again. Oops. All right, so that makes sense. Like everything, I mean, the reason I'm talking through all this, I think, is that it just helps me make sure everything makes sense with, you know, I'm like double checking my work, you know. Okay, so high E is really good. Okay, it's a little bright. That means maybe the back is too thick. The sharp notes now, like A natural, are flat. So that means the middle is probably too thick. Middle versus the side. That also may mean the back is too thick. Somewhere, the A being flat means somewhere we have too steep of an incline, and I need to make it more parallel. Or I need to make the reed freer in another way, say taking off cane, but that to me is not the answer on a day 2. And that would compound the flatness issue. Whereas if I can just make the reed less hard, to me scraping in this area, it's going to make the reed less hard. So by maybe a factor of 2, we're only going to flatten it by a factor of 1. And if it's really super hard, that may actually more than make up for the flattening of the pitch that's going on here. Again, the pitch, that sort of the A being flat, it's a little misleading, right? Like the high B was really sharp. It's not that the reed is flat, but it plays flat because it's too strong. Again, staying away from this angle. This would ruin the rail, that rail. So I only got to this angle. I never got here. That makes sense. Just that subtle difference. Bad, great, bad, great. Okay. Taking off a lot of cane here. You see I'm taking off a lot. This is my medium file. Okay. This looks, again, it's looking more and more like a reed as I take off a little more in each sort of consecutive ring. It's looking more and more like a reed. All right. I should check the dial, but I know I took off about 1 or 2. Crow doesn't tell me much other than how hard is the thing to get going. So that felt easier. A is a little flatter, as to be expected. I mean, we scraped cane off. That's always going to flatten it. But the reed feels freer. It feels less like the back is too heavy for the middle. for that read test, the Careless Whisper. Okay, so this thing now, let me put that on this. Okay, this is what the sound should sound like. My voice will be way softer, but the bassoon should sound better. The reed has a much more balanced sound. Again, we're not making it for sound, but sometimes the sound can tell us something about how we're scraping it, right? So it's by no means dark, but you can go back 10 minutes and listen to how the sound was before before I scraped the back, right? So the sound, one way to say it would be like it felt like only the front half of the reed was vibrating, whereas now the whole reed is vibrating a little more, just congruently. So good. Now we lost the high E. We don't need to play Careless Whisper yet. We can wait until the reed's a little more refined, a little more strong, a little more aged. Yeah, I think that's it. That's sort of my day 2 thoughts. Any other questions in the chat? Let's see, other than more Careless Whisper. Yeah, thanks for watching. And I'll see you back here for day 3.